Hi, today I have prepared a very simple but nevertheless very interesting problem, and I hope everyone would be able to solve this problem. So I recommend you to stop video here, read the problem, try to solve this problem, and when you would be ready, you can run video again and you can compare your answers with my answers and explanations. So here's the problem. An achondroplastic male dwarf with normal vision marries a colorblind woman of normal height. The man's father was 6 feet tall, and both of the woman's parents were of the average height. Achondroplastic dwarfism is autosomal dominant, and red-green color blindness is X-linked recessive. So the first question is, how many of the daughters might be expected to be colorblind dwarfs? And as according to this problem, color blindness is a recessive X-linked genetic disorder. So her mother genotype would be XX, and her father genotype would be XY. And in order for her mother to be colorblind, her genotype should be X and small c, X and small c, so she must be homozygous recessive for this genetic disorder. Because if at least one of the X chromosomes would have dominant allele, and allele is just a version of the gene, so one gene can have many versions. So in this case we have a version with two recessive alleles. That's why this female has this genetic disorder and is colorblind. And this genetic disorder happens in males much more frequently because males has only one X chromosome and cannot be balanced with another X chromosome with normal allele. So as you see, this is genotype of the mother. Mother is colorblind. And this is genotype of the father. And father is not colorblind, so X chromosome has dominant allele C. And when we build a Punnett square, we can see the possible genotypes and phenotypes for the progeny. So here would be genotype of the mother on the top. So this stands for the female, and on this side would be male, and genotype would be X, and dominant allele for the color blindness, and another sex chromosome would be Y, and small c here. So when we build the Punnett square, we would be able to see phenotypes and genotypes of the progeny. So here we would have X and capital C, another from the mother side X chromosome would carry recessive allele C. Here we would have recessive allele C and Y chromosome, so this is going to be a male, and male going to be colorblind. And here we would have capital C chromosome from the father side and small c allele from the mother side. So this is going to be female, and female would have normal vision because one dominant allele present here, so this recessive allele would be balanced with one normal allele present on the X chromosome from the father side. And in the last cell here we would have X chromosome from the mother side with small allele C recessive trait, and Y chromosome. So as you see, 50% of the progeny would be males and 50% would be females, and all the females would have normal vision, because they would have two X chromosomes, and one X chromosome would have one normal allele from the father side. So the answer for the first question, how many of the daughters might be expected to be colorblind dwarfs, we would answer that 0%. 50% of the daughters, of course, can be dwarfs, but none of them can be colorblind, as you see, according to this Punnett square. So now we can move to the second question. How many of their sons would be colorblind and of normal height? And we know that dwarfism is dominant autosomal trait. So let's now return to our Punnett square here. So as you see, 100% of the progeny of such a cross of these parents, this is female parent and this is male parent, so 100% of the males would be colorblind, and 50% of them would be of the normal height. So the answer to the second question would be 1/2. So 1/2 of the sons would be colorblind and dwarf, and 1/2 would be colorblind and normal height. And why 1/2? Because when we have trait that is coded by allele on the autosomal chromosome, there is 50% chances that he would get normal allele from one of the parents, and 50% chances that he is going to get one allele that is stands for the dwarfism. So for example, if we once again draw a Punnett square, so this would be mother side and this is father side, and on the mother side we would have two normal alleles, that is small d, and father would have one allele that is dominant, another that is recessive. As you see, 50% of such a cross would be capital D small d, capital D small d, and small d small d, and small d here. So because capital D dominant allele stand for the dwarfism, so 50%, as you see here, would be dwarf in such a cross. So that's why all of the males, as you see, according to the first Punnett square, all of the males would be colorblind, and 50% also of them would be dwarf. So this is our answer for the second question. And the last question, they have a daughter who is a dwarf with normal vision. What is the probability that she is heterozygous for both genes? Once again, let us return to this first Punnett square, and as you see, 100% of all the females would be would have normal vision, and they 100% of them would be heterozygous for this trait. So the genotype would be X and capital C and X small c. So they would be heterozygous for this trait, and also half of them, according to this second Punnett square, would be dwarf. So the genotype would be capital D and small d. So once again, the question is, they have a daughter who is a dwarf and normal color vision. So she would be 100% of them would have normal color vision, 50% of them would be dwarf, and what is the probability that she is heterozygous for both genes? And that means that 100% such phenotype would mean heterozygosity for both genes. So the answer would be 100%. And this is all for today. Thank you for your attention. I hope you were able to answer all the questions correctly. Please write your comments, questions if you have any. Goodbye.